Hello bowling fans, this is Dustin J. Markowitz on location here at Elite Pro Shop here in beautiful Fort Mojave, Arizona for a very special Bowling Evolved interview. And Luke who came in off the street today, a man that many of you may know in 1994, shot 300 on TV, 1996 PBA National champion, 6-time PBA champion, the one and only Butch Soper. Butch, thank you very much for coming in today.
You do your homework.
Yeah, that's what I do. And, Butch, Bowling Evolved, we've always had a lot of bowlers from the past, present, and the future. We've always been about the evolution of bowling. A few weeks ago, we had the wonderful Mr. 900 Glenn Allison on the show, and, we were talking. I saw you come in. You actually came in to see my mom, Heidi Frederick, the one who drilled that 300 ball, I might want to add, the Gold Roto Pro back in the day. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are wondering, Butch, what have you been up to these days?
Well, it was time to go back to work after being on, I was on tour of 29 years, and it came to a situation where my game started going down at 50 years old, and then throwing the ball straight for a living. I didn't have other games where I could, like a Norm Duke or a Walter Ray, could hook it also. Mm-hmm. I was stuck with my straight shot, and all of a sudden it wasn't working very well. So I had to wait for the shot to come to me, and I had to capitalize on it.
Sure.
And most of the time I did. One of the straight players had a shot, I knew it right away during the practice session. When all the crankers left a 2-8-10 during practice, I'm in. And it was just, it's my time to shine, you know what I mean?
Sure.
It was hard because usually I only had about 1 out of 3 weeks where I had a decent shot to play anymore. And it was just time to go back to work.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you've been down at Havasu Hero in the bar down there these days, right?
Mm-hmm. Bar manager, bartender.
Yeah.
Did that in the 70s a little bit. It helped bowling out. Mm-hmm. And bartending is a very lucrative business. I used to do the nightclubs around Disneyland area in the 70s. I'd bowl tour 6 months a year during the winter and the summer, and then take off, and probably made more money 10 and bar between July and December.
Oh, that's funny.
And it actually came down in 1981. I started bowling really good, and so I didn't pour another drink for 20 years.
Well, and speaking of bowling, so you still bowl league today, at least, if anything, and you said that you were looking about maybe getting back out there a little bit more.
Yeah, I got time off now. I'm going to start getting into bowling again.
Yeah.
It's not too late. I'm only 67. That's good.
I mean, it's got to be in your blood, so you got to miss it once in a while.
You do.
Yeah.
I even started missing traveling now.
Really?
Basically, I got so burnt out on traveling, and now I'm kind of missing it again.
Yeah. Well, of course, I do want to give a quick plug. Butch will be performing in the 2x4, which is going to be on December 12th, the Bowling Evolved 2x4 here at Riverside Lanes in Lofton, Nevada. He'll be bowling with the woman who just drilled the ball for you, as a matter of fact, the wonderful Heidi Frederick, who's in the background smiling right now. I gotta give my mom a plug, it's one of those things. Remember, check her out on Facebook at EliteProShopAZ.com. There you go, Mom, there's your plug for the day.
Do you have to be over a 100 doubles team, 100 years old?
Yeah, 125, but Let's talk a little bit about, you're mentioning the tour. Now, I'm sure you still follow it a little bit, watching on TV and whatnot. And what do you see now in comparison to then? How has it changed, and what do you kind of miss about your days that they might do today, or might not do today?
Well, it's giving instructions. People come up to me all the time, give instructions, and I haven't done it for giving instructions so long. I wouldn't know where to start. I mean, probably teach people how to throw with 2 hands.
Really?
Yeah, because it's so. You could just open up the lane so much more, overpower the conditions. Your carries well over 90%. That's like, wow.
Sure. Looking at the 2-handed, it's interesting you bring that up. I don't know if you heard about not too long ago, Brian Voss and Jason Belmonte got into it. Voss being the traditionalist, saying that against Resin and against now with your career, Resin obviously did a lot of good for your career, especially towards the end. And many would argue, and I would say in the 90s was probably your strongest point in your career, using the reactive resin, including the 300 TD at the Gold Roto Pro and the track equipment at that time. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about it? Do you think 2-handed bowling has hurt the game? Do you think it should be illegal? Has resin? How do you feel about that whole thing?
I don't know. It's so many different years I've went through in the last, from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's just so many, and now the 2000s. Every year it changes. I would like to see guys that would. Lane conditions. I believe that they could figure out how to make the lanes basically a lot slicker to where nobody could barely hook a ball. Mm-hmm. To where, of course, it would be a hard time for the balls to come back if you put too much oil out there for the machines, but there was twice in my career where They did 2 weeks in a row, the PBA Tour, only time in history they went 50 feet of oil. And it was unheard of, and I love both TV shows. 2 weeks in a row going 50 feet of oil, because now everybody's throwing it straight. You send it out, it ain't coming back. And then, yeah, it was kind of unusual, because usually a straight player likes the ball, likes the lanes hooking a lot.
Sure.
But in a way, it's the other way around also, where the lanes are really slick when nobody's hooking it. Now that's what I can see the game go to.
It's funny you bring that up too. My broadcast partner Eric Forkel, obviously you've known Eric for, I'm sure you've been out with him. He talked a little bit about that too, that the conditions don't always seem to match up to what the equipment is out there, and that's, you know, looking at league play, tournament play. Obviously, your house shot is not going to be the same as what you should be bowling on the PBA Tour, although it does look that way sometimes.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think that's one of the biggest drawbacks to tournaments, and I know even myself, switching from a one-handed traditional player to now the two-handed player, I would love to see more oil out there, but then again, that's, you know.
Well, I know, it's just, this stuff in this new era, you hope it's going to change back the other way again.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Do you think that bowling will have a little bit of a comeback? I mean, obviously it's been somewhat of a downward slope the last few years, although collegiate bowling, high school bowling has been doing very well now that there's been a lot more focus on that. Do you see that maybe a new generation of bowling might come out of what has been sort of a downward turn?
Well, yeah, I can see that happening. Well, basically, though, it seems to be still in the U.S. bowling's kind of dropped a little bit. It's coming back. Seems to be internationally wise, bowling has really picked up across the world. And watch the Olympics. Maybe it could be a Winter Olympic sport. You see some games in the Olympics. Who plays that? I mean, it's like the bowling now is so international. It's like maybe one of these years. But I don't know. It's got to wait. I bowled the Japan Cup in the '90s. It was fantastic. In fact, at that time, Japanese bowlers were second to the U.S. bowlers. And now it's just the European bowlers, Australian bowlers are everywhere good bowlers now. It's amazing.
Looking at bowling today, and again, comparing it to how you've developed, if you had to pick a bowler today that you watch, who do you enjoy watching these days? I mean, obviously in the past, you know, I'm sure you had your heroes from every generation, so to speak, or guys that you admired on the lanes. Do you still have someone today, or people today that you enjoy watching?
I like watching Norm Duke more than anybody, because he's so versatile. He can do anything with the bowling ball. Same with Walter. I see Norm recently. I says, "You're the third best bowler ever lived." And he was happy I said it, because he might have smacked me because he thought maybe he'd be the best. That's a big argument. If you take the top 5 bowlers in the history of bowling, who would you take the top 5 bowlers? You get a lot of arguments.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, I always say it's hard to argue against Anthony and Walter Ray, of course, but
and Pete Weber. You could almost say he's the best bowler ever.
Say Dick Weber as well. Dick Weber was
also,
tremendous. Many people would even argue Billy Hardwick going back in the day, you know. So, and just one more question. I think this is kind of fun for our audience. Now, obviously, again, you've been in every era of mostly every area of PBA bowling. You've had a chance to see from different angles. Do you have some favorite stories or favorite times that you had that you can share with our audience that come to mind when you think about some of the stuff in the past?
Was this X-rated? Like, no, it's there's so many. We could be here for hours. It's just so many stories. I mean, there's just so many of them. You can't. I'd like to write a book about all the stories. It'd be a big seller.
Interesting. And, you know, as many people have said, and I consider this a compliment. You know, they called you the best journeyman PBA player of all time because you were able to consistently be out there for as long as you were, be competitive. And, you know, I think back, I mean, obviously some of the best memories, you shooting 300 on TV, you know, beating Walter Ray for the PBA National, it's got to be a bookend career. And when you reflect back on your career, I mean, what comes to your mind? I mean, obviously there has to be some pride there for what you've been able to accomplish.
Yeah, I won the PBA National Championship and filmed the 300 on TV. Those are the 2 best.
And do you have any favorite opponents you ever played out there? I was curious about that. Anyone that you just really enjoyed beating
it's so
out
hard.
there?
You know, there was too many guys I didn't like. There was those guys you always worried about because they always had your number. So every time you bowl him, he beats you. And then another guy, every time you bowl him, you beat him. And it's just, it goes back and forth after a while, though. But no, I have no favorites. I used to just like to destroy. At times you can't think about who it was, but at times, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess to finish out, obviously, we have our audience here. There's still a lot of fans of Bowling Evolved, and of course, Butch, people talk about you all the time still, believe it or not. And, when I mentioned that we were going to be interviewing you, a lot of real positive feedback came. And do you have any words of wisdom, anything you'd like to tell your fans and the bowlers in general out there?
Yeah, you don't ever get old. I laid off 16 years. I'm ready to get back into it again at the age of 67. And so, yeah, just as long as your body can help to keep bowling.
And do you think you're going to make it back out to the senior tour these days?
I wouldn't mind bowling a stop or two. See how it goes starting out again.
Of course, it's like bowling the all-star team out there these
I
days.
know.
Well, Butch, thank you very much for coming on the show. Greatly appreciate it. And ladies and gentlemen, stick around for future content from Bowling Evolved, including more information on the Bowling Evolved 2x4 that hopefully Butch and Heidi might make the TV show here, so that could be a lot of fun to see. But ladies and gentlemen, once again, check us out, bowlingevolved.com. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Mongoose Bowling Products at mongooseproducts.com. And of course, all the fans out there, thank you so much for your support. For Butch Soper, I'm Dustin J. Markowitz. Have a great day.